Atlas 2 Electric Boogaloo, let's go! Yes, you heard me right. We're getting a new version of the Atlas, which I know some of you probably aren't going to be that surprised about because the original Atlas model got a revamp not that long ago. And usually when they revamp a ship like that, it's usually a sign that it's going to be getting a new costume on its skeleton. And here we are. They're not calling this one the Atlas 2. This one is actually going to be called the Trafalgar, which is pretty neat. So let's get a look at the actual stats on this thing. Actually, first, let's talk about how it's being released. So I know this is going to be disappointing, but it shouldn't be that surprising given the release of the original Atlas, but this is going to be releasing in the Infinity lock boxes. So this is going to be a little bit harder to obtain, but, you know, this is something for next year's event campaign. Though at the same time, I feel like a lot of you were hoping to get that get the Breen Juggernaut for that. So now you're going to have to be making some decisions, which I know sucks. This ship will be going live on PC in the Infinity Lockboxes on September 2nd. That's going to be on PC. Console, you guys will be getting this ship on September 30th. Now, the ship itself is gorgeous. They had a live stream earlier today showing off a closer look at this thing, and like it's really pretty. I really like this thing. It's meant to be sort of a Excelsiorized version of the Atlas. So like with a lot of these other TMP era ships, they've been doing a lot of ships, very based off of the Constitution style design style. And during the live stream, they said that's how the ship originally started. They were originally going to do a more Constitution styled look, but then decided, you know what if we do Excelsior instead, which I really like because I mean, they've been, I love the Constitution, but they've been using that design aesthetic a lot for these TMP era ships. And I feel like they've been kind of neglecting the Excelsior design style a little bit. So I'm really happy to see that they decided to go in that direction instead for the Trafalgar here. I grabbed some pictures from the live stream here so we can get some better looks at this thing too. It's really pretty. Well, I said this thing was based off of the Excelsior. Specifically, they said that this was meant to be more inspired by the Enterprise B version of the Excelsior, which is why it has the teal color scheme and it has these little extra fins along the warp nacelles. However, they did say during the live stream that these little fin sections, they're removable. So there are different versions of the nacelles that don't have these fins to give it a little bit more of an aesthetic of the original Excelsior. And additionally, you can change the color on the hull to the original Excelsior blue style. So if you're more of a fan of the original Excelsior styling, you can go with that direction instead. Yeah, here's the top of the ship. You can see a bunch of phaser turrets along the saucer section, big beefy nacelles. I love this. I'm not sure what this is supposed to be, but it looks really cool embedded in the warp nacelles. Also, like what they've done with a lot of the other TMP era warp nacelles, there are variants for different light up effects on the nacelles. So you can get these grill sections along here. Those can light up on certain versions. And you can also get a version that has orange Bussard collectors. Here's the bottom of the ship. They also added these big honking cannons on these things because this is supposed to be a Juggernaut. It's going to have cannons. So they wanted to make sure it had cannon mounts on it. Detail I really like on this thing is here, though, along the side of the secondary hull. They gave it broadside emitters. Look at that. Little ball turrets along the side of this thing. It's a broadside build, basically, which is a little funny because they also gave this thing a 5-3 weapons layout, which I'm also grateful for, but that's getting into the stats. I wanted to go more into the visuals of this thing. Before we go there, here we can see the back end of it. 3 impulse engines. The Enterprise B, it had 4 impulse engines, but so it's a little interesting that they only gave this one 3, but yeah, it still looks pretty cool. Also, this section right here, this is like an open hangar bay, which I thought was cool, but also at the same time, I thought was kind of weird, given that this is actually a Juggernaut. Doesn't have a hangar bay, but I mean, you'll be able to use the skin on the original Atlas too if you prefer. So that is an option there as well. Here's a closer shot at that hangar bay. It looks really cool, though. I really do like that. It's just a shame I'm probably not going to be able to use it all that much because, spoiler alert, the stats on this thing way better than the original Atlas, even though it doesn't have a hangar bay. Closer shot at the neck section. You can see there it's got the rib style neck that is kind of a signature of the Excelsior. And a closer look at the secondary hull. On the live stream, they said that the secondary hull on this one was kind of designed to kind of resemble like classic World War II battleships. So it's kind of got this look of having this like belted armor look to it. So I thought that was kind of a cool idea there. Though it also makes me wonder, does it float? Probably doesn't because it's a massive spaceship, but I think that's the visual that represents this giant ship floating on this little pod section down here, I think is silly. Here's another angle at that too. Like I said, broadside phasers looks awesome. I love that. That looks so cool. A closer look at the aft section there. You get a closer look at those impulse engines. And here's another close up of the primary hull here. Yeah, this is a really pretty ship. I am very impressed with this thing, with the way this thing looks. And a closer shot of those cannons there in the front section. And this is meant to be another like heavy weapon. This is this hard point here is actually meant to be part of the innate lance weapon on this ship, because this is a Juggernaut. It's got to have an innate weapon on it, which we'll talk a bit more about that in a bit. But this is going to be part of that visual, which it looks pretty cool. Okay, now let's get into the stats. It's got a hull modifier of 1.45 and a shield modifier of 1.2, so it's going to be fairly tanky, even though it is a Juggernaut. So it's going to be having a very tactical-based bridge officer seating. You're going to have the option to either tank or DPS in this thing. It's got a 5-3 weapons layout, so it's going to be friendly for both forward and broadsider builds. 3 device slots, typical for a Juggernaut. The bridge officer seating, a commander tactical / command, lieutenant commander universal / pilot, lieutenant commander engineering, lieutenant science, and ensign universal, which isn't bad. I do think it's weird that they gave this thing a pilot seat, but at the same time, like looking at it, actually remarkably similar to what I would want for that Odyssey summoner flight deck carrier that I've been begging for ages. So it's actually it's remarkably similar to that. You know, command pilot is something that is not that's not a pairing you see very often. So it's interesting that they went in that direction. They did that as kind of like an homage to the Excelsior, which the original Excelsior, I think the legendary Excelsior specifically, that has a pilot seat on it as like an homage to Captain Sulu, who was originally a pilot. And they made it a command ship because, I mean, well, look at it. It's meant to be a big hulking ship, which kind of gives the vibe of a command ship. So I'm cool there. In the consoles, it's got 5 tactical, 4 engineering, and 2 science, base turn rate of 9, an impulse modifier of 0.17, and an inertia rating of 60. So it's not going to be a particularly speedy ship, which, I mean, is pretty typical of a Juggernaut. So that's not something to be that surprised about. Power buffs, it gets plus 15 to weapons power and plus 5 to engine power, which is pretty nice. I would have liked to see some of that in aux power, but, you know, you can't get everything. It can equip dual cannons, which of course it can. It's a Juggernaut. It will have the inspiration ship mechanic, because it's a command ship. It will have command cruiser auras. It shouldn't have command cruiser auras. I'm guessing this is a leftover from the original Atlas, because the original Atlas was a Dreadnought, so it would have those, but a Juggernaut shouldn't have those. Were those in the live stream? Okay, I'm not seeing them on the UI in the live stream, so that might just be a typo in the blog. But yeah, a Juggernaut should not have the cruiser aura abilities because they're not a cruiser. We'll go over the console, the trait, and the innate weapon in a bit. And it has the Juggernaut Mastery Package, which gives buffs to crit chance, crit severity, hull regen, and damage. Here's the Admiralty stats for those that care. It gets Engineering 41, Science 22, Tactical 63, and the special is plus 10 tactical per engineering ship. Now, I'm going to talk about the console last because that's going to be the biggest discussion part of this video. So let's get the other two things over with first. The innate weapon, which is called the Impact Strike Lance, what it does is it shoots a big honking phaser, which is actually 3 beams coming off of the ships. You'll see a look at the animation on it from the live stream here on screen right now. But what it does is it shoots at a single target, dealing some phaser damage, and will have 50% shield penetration. And to that foe, it will deal minus 200% crit severity to their weapons for 20 seconds. And to yourself, after you activate it, it'll give you plus 25% crit chance with your weapons for 20 seconds, which is pretty interesting. The fact that it's not only debuffing an enemy, but it's buffing yourself. Mainly that second part is going to be the more important part. The crit severity debuff, that's really something that I think would only be valuable in a PvP setting. But no one in their right mind is going to take this ship into a PvP setting, so I wouldn't worry about that. And plus, because this is an innate weapon, it's going to have like a 2-minute long cooldown, so that's not something that's going to be triggering all that much. The main plus here is the crit chance that you're getting to this thing too, because like the phaser damage, it's probably not going to be all that much. The tooltip here isn't going to be super accurate because it's just based off of the whatever test character that they ran this on, which was clearly some sort of like blank build with no gear or traits on it. So that'll scale with your phaser damage, but I'm not sure how much it will. So we'll see that once it goes live. But again, the real plus here is the buff to crit chance. But even then, that's not going to be huge because, again, there's not much that lowers the cooldown of innate weapons. The only thing I can think of is the the starship trait off of the Shrike, which is a promo ship, so most players aren't going to have access to that. So it's neat. Oh, the other thing I think is kind of neat about this thing that you don't commonly see on innate weapons on ships, it has a 180-degree arc, meaning that it's going to be pretty easy to use for a broadside build, which I really appreciate. You know how much I love my broadside builds. But yeah, 180-degree arc, that's really nice. I would love to see more of that because so many innate weapons always are confined to a 90-degree arc or less, and that always bugs the crap out of me. I think the only exception I can think of is the innate weapon on the Shrike, actually, which is the only one I can think of that actually has a full 360-degree arc. And moving on to the starship trait, Wild Critical. What it does is every time you score a critical hit or a critical hit is scored on you, you will summon in a Wild Weasel Shuttle. If you remember the console off of the Ark Royal, it was capable of launching some Wild Weasel Shuttles that would shoot phasers and taunt enemies around you. This is a similar idea. So every time you score a critical hit or deal or receive a critical hit, you're going to be dealing crits more often than you're going to be receiving them in PvE. But yeah, you will summon shuttles. You can summon up to 5 Wild Weasel Shuttles, and they will stick around in combat for 60 seconds. Honestly, it's a gimmick starship trait, probably. Like these, I doubt these shuttles will be doing that much damage, especially if they're based off of the ones that are summoned in from Ark Royal's console. So they're not going to be that powerful, but if you like pet builds, which you guys know I do, it'll be something amusing to have. But it's just a shame such a gimmicky starship trait is going to be used on a lockbox ship, so it's going to be expensive. But now on to the big thing. That's the console Spirit of Sacrifice. And the reason this is a big thing is because on the live stream, Borticus literally said that they wanted this starship trait to be sort of on par with the DPRM. Not that it's going to replace DPRM, but they wanted it to be very important like the DPRM. Because in case you don't know, the DPRM, or the Dynamic Power Redistributor console, which is off of the original Atlas, is still to this day widely considered to be one of the most powerful consoles in Star Trek Online, and they wanted this to be on that level in terms of importance. And I gotta say, from what they've shown off here, it's not. So what Spirit of Sacrifice here does is, first, it has a passive, which will reduce the damage penalty from distance for your weapons, set to 0.13 for 2 seconds, which really doesn't make sense as a passive for that to only trigger like once in a while, because the benefit here really isn't all that great to begin with. Really, that should just be a constant thing. So like making it so that only enables like every 2 seconds just seems odd to me. Just, just make it less complicated and just reduce the penalty just straight up there. But yeah, because it doesn't really matter because it's not that powerful to begin with. But the clickability here, this was the thing that they made such a big deal about, that I am kind of up in the air about. So what this thing does is you sacrifice all of your current shields in order to recharge all of your bridge officer abilities. So basically it's meant to take all your shields down and just boom, all your bridge officer abilities are meant to be right back up. Borticus to say the tooltip isn't completely accurate right now. It's feeding off some incorrect stuff, so don't pay too much attention to these numbers right here, which is already not a great sign in my opinion, but whatever. We're still a couple weeks away from this going live. But yeah, the big thing there is, like, they said they wanted this thing to be on par with the DPRM. And bridge officer cooldowns just on their own are not the way to do this. Because one, a 2-minute recharge time, they did say they were open to lowering the base cooldown of this thing to down like to a minute or so, which definitely do that. Honestly, I would maybe even go less than that, because the thing with bridge officer cooldowns is that they have to be constantly running. Like, look at the Boimler effect. That's a passive trait that's always up. Look at improved photonic officer. You can just keep using photonic officer just constantly. So that's going to be something that can be used. I mean, even an Ox to Bat build, while kind of outdated at this point, you're constantly firing off 2 things of Ox to Bat in order to trigger those cooldown duty officers. So yeah, it's weird that they would think that a 2-minute cooldown console would replace any of those methods for this sort of thing, or really that bridge officer cooldowns would be that powerful at all. Because, I mean, not to say that they're not powerful, it's a thing that's pretty well covered in Star Trek Online already. There are plenty of ways to reduce the cooldown of your bridge officers that are way less just real estate heavy, because a whole console to dedicate to your bridge officer cooldowns is kind of a lot when you compare it to the other methods that are able to do that, because like Boimler effect, that's a personal trait. Personal traits generally don't have a huge effect on your build, and you can get up to 10 or 11 of them depending on your character species of them. So you got to have a good variety of those too. But universal consoles can be very powerful. So you kind of, sacrificing one of those for something like this is kind of a big ask. So yeah, like if they're wanting this to be like DPRM level of good, it needs to do more. Like not only does it need to be better in the recharge area, but it needs to, it should lower the recharge time of more stuff. Like it should lower the recharge time of lance weapons. That'd be nice, because this thing does have a lance, and there's only like one other thing I can think of in the game that lowers the innate weapons on ships. So throwing that into this console, I think would be really helpful, and also just be really nice synergistically for the ship itself. But stuff like I think Spencer was talking about this before, but stuff like devices, lower those cooldowns, lower captain's abilities would be really nice. But yeah, I guess that's the point I'm trying to make with this console. If you're really wanting to make this thing like DPRM level, it needs to do more than just lower bridge officer cooldowns, because that's an area that's already so well covered already by various different methods. It's just, this is going to feel redundant, especially given the fact that this is going to be on a lockbox ship. So it's not going to be a cheap method of getting those bridge officer cooldowns either. So not all players are going to have access to this, at least not right away. And even then, I know there's the event campaign. Event campaign's only a single character unlock method, so that's still going to leave players' alt characters high and dry if you're wanting to use this as a method for that. But yeah, really the main point here is just that bridge officer cooldowns, it's been done, it's covered. So it's like, if you want this to be on the level of the DPRM, which I remind you, still considered to be one of the most powerful consoles in the game, it needs to do more than just lower bridge officer cooldowns. Like I said, I know Spencer brought up the idea of it needing to be, it needs to lower the cooldowns of other stuff, and I think that would go a long way to really helping this thing out. But yeah, and the other big issue is like, lower that cooldown. 2 minutes, if you really want this thing to be like a primary way of lowering bridge officer cooldowns. 2-minute recharge time, that's too long. Way too long. Yeah, the live stream, Bordicus did say they were open to looking at this, to retweaking it, doing all that. Hopefully this will be buffed in some way or another. But yeah, as it is, it's a very mid console as it is. So overall with the Atlas, though, I mean, yeah, I'm not super impressed with the console. I would like to see something. I mean, the lance is interesting if you could get that cooldown on it lowered. That's gonna have like a normal 2-minute cooldown like every other innate weapon has. So being able to lower that thing's cooldown would be really nice. Again, that's something that I think should be really implemented into the console. But yeah, the lance is interesting, mostly because of that crit chance buff right there. But yeah, like I said, 2-minute cooldown, man, that's not going to be coming up all that much. So hopefully that gets tweaked somehow, or this gets tweaked to further benefit this. The starship trait's not bad. It's not great. I imagine those pets aren't going to do all that much. It's theme based. That's what the starship trait is. It's something to be, it's an amusement for your theme builds, and that's really all it's going to be. Which I guess is kind of a shame, because again, these lockbox ships, they're not cheap. So you kind of want the things that they come with to be kind of good, but at the same time, they're lockbox ships. They're single character unlocks. If you end up wanting them too much, they end up being somewhat they end up being a key part of your build. Then it sucks that they're single character unlocks. So I guess it's not really a bad thing that these things are kind of underwhelming. Really, the big plus here though with this ship is just the ship itself. It's got decent stats on it. The bridge officer seating's not bad. 5-3 weapons layout, and plus the ship is gorgeous. It's really pretty. I've already been seeing people calling this like an upgraded version of the Shangri-La, because they've got similar seating, and they are both TMP era ships. So basically, if you're wanting like a bigger, bulkier Shangri-La, this is a thing to go for. Overall, I like it. I'm probably gonna try to grab one, because I think it's cool. I do want its trait for that my TMP era pet theme build that I have going on the Ark Royal. The console, I'm hoping, gets some sort of buff to make it a bit more, relevant, because of that. They were claiming they wanted this to be on par with DPRM. Let's see how badly they want it to be at that, because right now it certainly isn't. But yeah, besides those shortcomings, I do want it, because like, look at it. It's really pretty. I like it. And that's going to be the big selling point here with this ship. I think it's just it looks cool. It's a TMP era Atlas, which is already a pretty popular ship because it's meant to be a big, bulky, dreadnought that's in the TOS era. And now we're getting that similar vibe for an Excelsior styled TMP era ship, which is really cool to see. So I'm looking forward to this. So reminder, this is going to be hitting PC and the Infinity lock boxes on September, I think it was September 2nd. Yeah, September 2nd. It's going to be coming out on PC. Console, you guys are going to be getting this on September 30th. Oh, also, before I go, they did tease during the live stream that there's going to be another live stream, I think on Tuesday, this coming Tuesday, that is going to be teasing another upcoming ship. We don't really know what it is officially yet. Though I'm sure some of you have seen some things that I'm not going to talk about. But yeah, there's another ship coming. That one's not going to be a lockbox ship, so hopefully that means it's going to be something that's going to be easier to obtain than this thing. But yeah, so stay tuned for Tuesday for another Deca live stream. But in the meantime, let me know what you think of this ship down below in the comments. And while you're down there, be sure to like, subscribe, hit the bell for notifications. If you'd like to further support the channel, become a channel member to gain additional channel perks. Be sure to check out the affiliate links down in the pinned comment. Check out the merch store down below. If you're ever shopping on the Epic Game Store, be sure to use my content creator code STU1701. Any of these really help me out, and I really do appreciate it. Either way, though, thank you so much for watching. My name's Stu, and I will see you guys next time.